And then we'll come across to Max.
I was just wondering if you could share some examples of some experiments we could do with feeling emotions, like, I guess, yeah.
I think I don't want to get into that subject today, Ivana.
Yeah, no worries.
I think I've already said a lot about how to do those things.
Yep.
So my suggestion is to go back over that material and, but just, if you think about your core feelings, like sadness, a feeling you don't want to have, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, have you ever tried experimenting with sadness to see whether letting it go, like actually going through it, makes you feel better?
Yeah, I have.
So then why aren't you still doing it?
Because often I don't feel better. Yeah.
Yeah, so under those circumstances, then what I'll do is, okay, there were times when I felt better, and then there's other times when I don't. Why?
Yeah.
Have you worked out why?
No. So I guess I could try to experiment more with that.
Why is it that sometimes I cry and I feel better,
and
it's permanently better, and then other times I cry and it's just like I'm crying again about the same thing, crying again about the same thing, and nothing gets better? Yeah. So you need to make an experiment that tells you what's going on there. Now I know what's going on, and what's going on is that you're in the addiction when you're crying the second time. So you're just crying about something that you lost and not something that you learnt. You understand the difference? There's a difference between crying because you didn't get a thing versus crying because you learnt a new thing and it's amazing, or crying and you learnt a new thing and it made you regret all the old things. There's a different kind of crying there, right? One of them's healing and the other one's an addiction, not getting met. But you've got to experiment with that. I experiment with that, and I learned, you can cry for days and weeks and months on end, but if it's in an addiction, it's not going to benefit you at all. One time I did that, I cried for 8 weeks every day for about 5 hours, and at the end of the 8 weeks, I still felt the same. And I'm going, what the hell's going on? I'm crying, I'm letting it out, and then I realised I was crying based all on a false belief. Once I started looking at my beliefs about it, and I had some cries about my beliefs, bang, completely different. Didn't even need to cry anymore about it. Does that make sense? So an example of that is I was crying, I was crying about a relationship. My feeling, it was with Mary, this one. I was crying about the relationship basically I felt ending. Mary didn't want to see me anymore, right? So crying about the relationship ending. So all I was really crying, it was about, I need her, I want her in my life, isn't it? I need her in my life. How are we going to move forward without being together? All this kind of thing. It's just crying in all of my addictions, right? Once I realised that I wasn't being loving in the entire thing myself, and that I needed to look at my beliefs and actually look at why I felt this way. And I cried then sincerely about why I felt the way I did. That I needed somebody other than myself to live with. I needed somebody to make me feel good about myself and a lot of other things. Once I cried about that, all the addiction went away, and also I stopped crying. Make sense? So I experimented.
Yep.
By crying for 8 weeks and found that I had no results at all.
Yep.
And then I experimented with another way of dealing with it.
Yep.
And in the process of experimenting with the other way of dealing with it, I had a result. And interestingly enough, 2 days later, Mary gives me a call. It was so good she didn't give me a call in those 8 weeks. Because I would have just dumped all of those addictions on her. So my guides and God did a great thing keeping Mary away from me for those 8 weeks. Does that make sense? Well, at the time I thought that was the most terrible thing they could have done. But that's just an example of an experiment. If you, I've said many times with your emotion, if you keep crying about the same thing every day, you are not dealing with the thing. There's something else going on. There's beliefs that need to change. So you need to make experiments with what are your beliefs? What are the ones that you wholeheartedly believe are true that are actually false? Right? Because you don't cry about a thing that's false forever unless you believe it's true.
Oh, hang on, my brain needs to catch up.
Yeah. Sorry.
Try that.
Tears are the result of false beliefs. Always. They're always the result of false beliefs. Now, I'm not talking about happy tears here, by the way, because they are, real, but I'm talking about sad tears are always the result of false beliefs. If you continue in the same tears all the time, then you're not releasing the false beliefs that cause those tears.
Yeah, and then that's why I wouldn't ever be feeling any better.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you need to find what false beliefs cause those tears. You're thinking it's one thing. So as an example is I was thinking that it was Mary leaving me. No, it wasn't. It had nothing to do with Mary leaving me. It had to do with my expectations of being loved. That were all false. Make sense? So on one hand, I thought it was one thing, but that wasn't the thing. But I could cry about it the rest of my life if I wanted to. But that wouldn't have helped because that thing wasn't the thing that I needed to release in order to stop crying, right? So you have to find the real thing. Yeah. And this is the point about, one of the methods of finding truth is through your experience. If you go through crying, you go through an emotion and it always seems never ending, then obviously something's wrong with the experience. Simple as that. So be honest with yourself, go, I'm doing something wrong here. I must be. It's not Jesus' fault, which is what you felt, right?
Have I? I didn't realise.
Yeah. I don't want to listen to Divine Truth anymore because I'm sick of the cry. I'm sick of this. It's not working. How many of you had that spit? Yeah. Many of you, right? You go, nah, it's not working. Yes, it's working. It's just the exact thing is actually working. And the exact thing is telling you what you're doing is actually wrong. It's working. It's telling you that it's had no effect, so therefore it must be wrong. That makes sense? But the average person goes, oh no, it's just not working. Because we want something that we believe to work, should work. We want it to work. And this is where we're making an assumption. We're making an assumption if I just keep doing this same thing, I'll get a different result.
Thank you.
Rather than going, oh, maybe my assumption is false. Make sense?